So here we are, and we keep going on the left angle cross of confrontation with the 6-2. The 26 is a very difficult gate. I'm very aware in my life how much having this gate in my design has been a great advantage in this phase of my life, and an enormous disadvantage when I was unaware, because it's so unpredictable in the way in which it's going to operate when you're not self. And yet at the same time, you can see the beauty of the 26, which can only really see in the sixth line. You can see it anywhere else. And it comes with this power of authority. The authority that's always the potential of the trusted force of the leadership, of the beauty. That's possible in six line being as they go through their process. And this is the natural. That's a very important intro. And again, it's a blue colored line, so we can see that's a long process. The natural attunement of influence justified by the correctiveness of actions. This is the magic formula in this life. As an ego being, for those people in the world who have an open ego, if you really experience my ego, you will see that it's clean. But it has to be taking a very, very, very nice long time. It's a long process. The ego is not aware. It's just a vehicle. It's just a motor. It's just a power. And yet, at this power that it takes surrender to release the being from the hold of ego. When you think about humanity, and you think the majority of humanity have an open ego, and you think about the tenets of that will, that every religion is pointing towards our responsibility in willfulness, that it's our will that has to be done. You see, there's an enormous dilemma with will and willfulness. It's not understanding. It creates so much sickness, heart problems, stomach problems, gallbladder problems, immune system weakness, all of that. So the six says something very beautiful here. It says the ego is something that's magnificent. And you have to teach the tribe, and the tribe only responds to will. But it has to be clean. And it can only be clean if it's correct. And it can only be correct if it does not operate out of the ego's imperative. It needs to operate out of the authority that is natural within the being, the correctness of the type, their authority, their strategy. This is the only way to cleanse out the ego. Where it's difficult to remember that the natural ego process is directly through the throat, the archetype of the 4521. So we know that the ego's first desire is to get to the throat. Everything you see with the ego people is that the biggest struggle is those ego beings, the defined ego that does not get to the throat. It's looking for this expression. It's looking for this correctness of its manifest as action, the embodiment of reason and purpose, or authority as a symbol. But it doesn't really matter. It's about reason and purpose. The ego should only be used for what is correct. It's not here to be used frivolously. It's not here to be used as to be able to display power. It's used to enjoy my 26 because it let me fool the people. When I was young, that was a game for me. How easy it was to fool people. That's not what the ego is for. It's here to be embodiment of reason and purpose. It's here to support the larger evolutionary process by taking the potential of the collective transcendence and selling it into the tribe. And we see clearly that if we can get to the tribe to embrace collective principles and we begin to reduce tension. I don't think that anyone who was alive in Europe in 1935 could have in any way imagined what Europe is like today. It's absolutely astonishing to look at that, to see what happens when you collectivize the tribes. When I look at the Europe, because I have such a deep historical background, I look at Europe and I see nothing but tribal hatreds that are thousands of years old. Just putting a Frenchman and an Englishman beside each other at a table is a risk. They've been hating each other for thousands of years. Then you look at this thing. After all, it was only about 60 years ago the tribes in Europe were butchering each other at a level that's unimaginable. And now have you got this German cozy with the French? I don't get that. That's a miracle. Then what's the miracle? It's the collectivization of the tribe. When you look at the evolution, you can see two patterns. You can see North America, where everybody gets homogenized into a new tribe. So you become a German American, a French American, an Italian American, whatever it is. But American becomes the new tribe. And we have the same thing in Canada. We call it multiculturalism. You take in different tribes under the label of being Canadian. And then you see the other side in Europe. All the tribes agreed to stay tribes, but they all agreed to work together for each other's benefit. Wow, somebody did a really good job of selling a collective principle to the tribe. Now, what do you see out of that? What do you see out of that collectivization, out of the tribes could only have taken place after all that bloodshed and violence? Willpower. The moment that fascism could not win the great battle of creating the super race, of eliminating all the lower levels of life, the fear and danger by all of it, the bloodshed, the horror, out of came, okay, enough, let's listen to this collective principle. It worked. The moment that the immune system, in a larger sense, was weakened with the chance that they would be receptive to the sale of something different. And who sells it? And who see the possibility of humanities that can emerge out of the 26? This ability to take the tribe out of its lock and open to its possibility of a collective place. And it's not different. Not long ago, I was in Toronto, in Canada, which is an enormous multicolored city. And yet it's all ghettos. not in the bad sense of ghetto, but in the enclosed sense. There's the Italian district, and there's the Greek districts, and there's the Romanian district, and the Korean district, and the Chinese, and the Japanese, and there's some Canadians there. There's just this umbrella, and they all go into their own neighborhoods, but they all work together in the soup, and everybody's happy. That's the only way you get to the tribe, by being able to to accept collective principles. So in the world, because everything is a binary, we have these two wonderful examples: the North American experience and the modern European experience. These are the two sides of this coin, all of this potential in the sixth line. And you can see that it's not easy, that you have to go through a whole lifetime to get there. You have to see that it's, well, he just skipped. Yeah, to, you have to see to go through these three cycles. That is the whole business of the sixth line being. Wise, oh yes, no question. Great wisdom can be attributed to the six, but after time, time and correctness. In the end, the very trickster has to admit that the only thing worth telling is correctness, nothing else. Oh, you can gloss it around and you can make it more attractive presentation, but in the end, it's the quality and value of what you sell that is so important. And this is what you get when you get to the sixth line. You get to this maximization of the power of memory applied to the nurturing of continuity. Remember, the opening to nurture this continuity is the glory of the 26th, but to get there, it's quite a process. So good luck. Then we go to the sixth street. The sixth tree on the life angle cross of confrontation. When you're in the ego and you're 6'3" and you see everything is about correctness, it's so bizarre that you're looking at the 11th gate. It's like, what do you mean? Didn't do a good enough job selling people. And the 11th gate says, no, I've got a better idea. And they have problems with each other. It's one of the other things to notice about the left angle of any hexagram with the right angle of the next. Notice that in your dealings with people, and you see that there's a tension there always. Interesting. So the shift is a particularly funny one because this is going up to the 11, and the 11 can really be scattered. I hate to say, but only 11 gate can sell light. The 26 sells form, but the 11 gate sells light. So the 26 goes, ah, shit, I sold them already. And the 11 says, we're going to have to keep on reminding them forever now, and we're going to have to turn what they have been driven to by will. We're going to turn them into what makes sense for them and a belief system. Have you ever noticed that every time that the tribe gets collectivized, you have a new kind of ism which is established, as you will see by the 11th gate. The tribe gets affected by collective globalization, and immediately you have the neo-materialism, and the neo-materialism is discussed and described to the 11th gate, and then it becomes a whole system. In other words, there's only this little tribe in here. You've got all this collective individual stuff in there, and all of a sudden there's this one little tribe stuck in between. And it's like the 11th says, okay, okay, you told them, good for you. Now we can go back to the collective business, please. I want to get out of the tribal thing. We've got to get them hooked. It's okay. Let's keep on feeding them. Immediately we're back to the collective, and we're going to teach them now. The real difference is coming for us that the cross of planning era is coming to an end. And this way of moving to the 26 to the 11 is changing. In other words, you collectivize the tribe. You open to the potential for education, and you bring in the whole educational infrastructure out of it. But we are entering into an era where the ability to institutionalize the educational programs are crumbling. Iraq, just as an example, or any of the old communist countries. The will is here to bring a transition to the tribe back to the support. You have people's revelations like in the Ukraine or whatever. However, if you don't bring in institutional infrastructure, education, the courts, all of these things, if you don't change the infrastructure, you change nothing. My dealings over the years with Friends of Human Design in the Ukraine, I was freed of communist rule a long time ago in relative terms now. And every time these people would try to come to human design courses, what they were trying to get a furlough from prison. How many times I had to sign documents that said that if they robbed the bank, I had to go to jail just to be able to let them out. The society of the service may have changed in the sense that the people wanted something different, but the infrastructure isn't there. So what you get to see in this movement from the 26 to the 11 is that the 11 pats the 26 on the head. Isn't that nice you were able to bring about this revolution? Well, I want to tell you something. If we don't change the institution, the person that you just brought in as the revolutionary is going to turn out to be a fascist pit, and you're going to end up with all this corruption. You never go away, and you're going to have the same damn problems. You won't even be able to change the school books. There are still places in the old Soviet Union where you get Marxist Leninism that is still being taught in the classroom because they don't have any other books, blocks. I don't mean it directly, it's just that they're in the text. So the 11 says, yeah, good, thank you. Now let's create some schools. Let's change the institution. Let's educate the officials. Let's educate the bureaucracy. Let's educate the legal infrastructure. Let's bring in a real transportation. And of course, this embeds the collective. When you move from the 26 to the 11, the tribe already is nervous. They don't know, by the way, that this has to be done. And they don't necessarily agree with the educational system that will be imposed on them because they don't understand it. In the whole delightful history of Russians in 2000 years, they have had 20 years of democratic experiences. And then we have this image that is a huge democratic creation. It's not. It's not at all. It's a very, very slow process to change the infrastructure. As we all know, we're leaving the cross of planet. It's not going to work. So yeah, this is what we do. The whole new system is going to get out there. Everything's going to be completely new. So yeah, what is your part in that? Are you ready to be individual and look after yourself and have free energy and all that stuff? Because this is something we really need to work on right now.